Hi, my name is Miroslav. I'm the designer at Scout Aviation, and in this video I want to talk about the takeoff procedure with the Scout Zero pod harness. Your flying experience will be very similar or the same as with the regular paragliding harness, but the takeoff is obviously different. It is different because you will be taking off on a flat land with power, not on a mountain, but it's also different for paramotor pilots. So even for pilots who are used to flying paramotors, it will be a different experience because this is not a paramotor and there are some differences. This video will be divided into 4 different parts. First is the getting ready on the ground. Second is the getting in the air. The third is getting seated into the harness properly. There's not so much to talk about the flying part because it will be the same as with a regular pod harness, but definitely we need to talk about the landing phase. The getting ready part is very important and it's very crucial that you pay attention, and later I will explain why it is so important as well. So first of all, it is a backpack that you need to carry and eventually run with. So follow the same procedures as with a regular backpack. That means tighten the waist belt, let the harness sit on your waist. It's nice and comfortable, unloads the shoulders. Secondly, tighten the shoulder straps, and seriously, you need to have the backpack very tight on your back. It's very important for the takeoff later. Also, tighten these straps just like on a regular backpack. Now, to see if it's okay or not, you can simply shake the paramotor on your back and see if it sits tightly on your back or it's kind of like detached and shaking around. Secondly, in the next phase of the takeoff, as you start running and you get some lift, it's basically a climbing harness. So you connect the leg straps, just like on a climbing harness, you want these straps to be tight. You should barely fit your hand underneath the straps. And then of course, as you start flying, it is a paragliding harness, so you need to connect these horizontal straps between the carabiners. Let's call it the chest strap. And the last step is to connect the cocoon. When you are running very fast on takeoff, you don't want the cocoon to fly into the prop. So you grab this bungee and connect it to your shoe. And then you connect the cocoon just like you are used to on any other pod harness. So if there are only 2 things that you take away from this video, is have the shoulder straps tight so the engine sits tightly on your back, and have this strap that connects the carabiners short and tight. Now, why it is very important. On a regular paramotor, you have metal bars, we call them gooseneck bars, under your arm, and the purpose of these bars is to transfer the thrust from the engine directly into the carabiners. That means there is a very direct transfer of the power into the glider. Now, this is not the case in the Scout Zero pod harness. Why? Because you don't want the metal bars, you want the regular paragliding harness. So here it is. The thrust from the engine is transferred to the carabiners, to the glider, through your body. So it's the engine pushing against your body, against your back, and you will be pushing the glider, you will be pushing the carabiners with your chest. Now this causes an experience or a sensation that was actually quite unfamiliar for me on the first flight. My chest was actually a little bit like squeezed. I could feel the pressure on my chest as I was pushing this strap. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a bit different because you don't feel that when you fly a regular paramotor. Now, obviously, you don't feel that when you fly without engine. So that's a big difference. Now, as the power is transferred into the carabiners through your body, it's a soft tissue. So it's kind of wiggling a little bit in the air on takeoff, and you want to minimize that. You want the motor to be as tight on your back as possible. You can release the straps later in flight because you're not using the engine at all, but during the takeoff phase, have it tight on your back and have carabiners narrow. Phase number 2 is the actual takeoff. Now, on a reverse inflation, there is nothing special. Do it as you're normally used to with a regular paragliding pod harness. However, forward launches are somewhat different because you have the cage here. First of all, most important, no power starts. That means inflate the glider without using the engine, without adding throttle. Now your engine is running on your back, but keep it on idle RPM so the prop is not spinning. There's a clutch. So you don't want the prop to spin. Why is that? Because we've designed this cage to be very minimalistic, as lightweight as possible, as aerodynamically good as possible. So if you would apply too much pressure on the cage with the lines, it could eventually happen that it would flex and the prop would hit it. So inflate the glider with using your own power, the force of your own body, and once the glider is up, then add power and get the prop spinning. Second thing that you may notice during an inflation, sometimes as the lines are kind of sliding up on a forward takeoff on the or around the hoop, they may eventually lift the engine a little bit, and as the lines go up, the engine will fall back into position. No problem, no worries about that. Then, still under full power, get your feet into the cocoon. And now we are about to enter the third phase, getting reclined and getting kind of seated into the harness. You go off the power smoothly and recline into the harness. The engine will automatically get into this position as you push with your feet against the board. Now the last thing is make yourself comfortable. As we previously mentioned, all these chest straps, shoulder straps are very tight, so just pull on the green handles to make them loose and make yourself comfortable. Yeah, that's it. Go back on power and climb, 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 climb to your nearest thermal. Part number 4 is the landing. There is not that much to say about the landing. It's pretty much the same. One advice, one and only advice, get out of the harness early. It might be a little bit different than your regular paragliding harness. Simply you have additional 13-14 kilos on your back. So you want to go out of the harness early. Well, what I tend to do, as I'm approaching the LZ, usually on power as I'm coming home, I go off the power, then I get out of the harness, lean forward, and now I just add a little bit like a flip of power, and it will just push the engine to my back. And this way I fly in this position on power for my final approach to land right next to my car, so I don't need to walk. Yeah, that's it. Get out of the harness early so you avoid surprises. But other than that, it's everything the same. Kill the engine before the final landing. So guys, in another video we discussed how to do a hang test and adjust the harness properly for your first flight. Now I strongly recommend to use that opportunity to try the system several times, getting into the harness, pushing against the footrest, pushing backwards to engage the engine into the vertical in-flight position. Practice it a few times so there are no surprises on your first flight. I wish you the best Scout Zero experience, and I wish and I hope that you will have more paragliding with the climb assist. Guys, thank you for watching. I hope you found this video useful. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions, or just go to scoutaviation.com for further details, videos and tutorials, or eventually place an order for your Scout Zero pod harness with climb assist. Ciao.